everyone, this is Dr. Meghan Karol, pelvic health physical therapist. Today we're going to go over some stretches, mobility exercises that you can do in a chair. So sometimes it's not always convenient to lay down on the bed, get on the floor, but it's almost always accessible to grab a chair and sit down and do a few stretches. And your mobility of your spine and your hips and really relate to your pelvis. So if you're really stiff in some areas, most likely something else is going to compensate for that. Okay, so we're just going to go over kind of all the basic movements of the spine and hips and things that you can do right here in your chair. So starting off, we're going to do a seated spinal flexion. If you're familiar with prayer stretch or child's pose, it's just sort of a modification of that. So I'm going to be in my chair. I'm going to probably come from my elbows to my knees, and I can flex my head forward, round my back, rolling down. If you are comfortable with it and if you can reach to the floor to get a little bit deeper in that stretch, you can. And then just hold that maybe about 30 seconds or so. Relax, breathe through it. Make sure none of this is uncomfortable or you're pushing too hard. To go in the opposite direction, we want extension of the spine. So maybe I will put like a pillow or something on the back of my chair if I want to lean against something to help myself with that. Or I can just seated, maybe hands on the hip if that's the most comfortable, arching back. If it's okay for your shoulders and if you have the mobility, you can reach overhead as you extend back, or maybe do your hands behind your head as you're arching back. Again, either just on your own or against something that you would lean against. And then we also want rotation of the spine. So I like to just do simple, hands on the hips or on the thighs as I rotate side to side. I'm just going for the ease of mobility, so I don't mind you grabbing onto something to kind of help and assist you through that motion, but I'm not necessarily a fan of like really pulling yourself from side to side. Just really nice ease of mobility side to side. Again, maybe it feels good to do your hands behind your head to get a little bit of shoulder and chest involved with that too. Okay, so those are the movements of the back. Onto the legs, if you're able to, and you might have to kind of grab onto your pant leg to help it up, but can you place your ankle on your other knee? And then sit up nice and tall and lean forward. I like to think about like pointing my belly button or aiming my belly button towards my foot or my ankle, leaning forward with that, and you'll feel a nice stretch in the back of your hips. Again, I'm going to deep breath. I'm going to relax into this. I'm not going to push and strain. Potentially, if you need to, you could hug your knee up towards your chest if having it down as you lean forward isn't very comfortable. We can also, I'm going to have something propped up here, or you could just have your legs straight on the floor, but knees straight. And again, I'm going to sit up nice and tall. I'm going to lean forward. Again, I like to sort of say point your belly button towards your knee versus like your nose to your toes, and then that's a lot of rounding through your back. But just gently bringing myself forward until I feel a nice stretch through the back of my hamstrings, maybe even to the back of my hip and in my low back, and then just hang out there. Deep breath through that for about 30 seconds or so. Making sure you're doing all of these on both sides. Don't walk around lopsided. Okay? And then the last one, because we spend so much time sitting, we get very tight through the front of our hips. So you can stand up. You can hold on to the back of your chair if that's comfortable for balance, but then just take a step back with one leg, open up through the front of the hip. If you're able to, you want to kind of lift through the front of the pelvis or tuck your butt underneath you. This is the joke I like to make. Almost imagine you've got a big old Texas belt buckle here. We're going line dancing, so if you can kind of hike up those hips, get that pelvic movement, that's kind of the movement that you're going for that pelvis. So if you can lift through that belt buckle, tuck your butt under, that's going to open up through the front of your hip. Again, holding on to balance if you need it. And then you can slightly shift forward, but keeping that tucked position, opening up through that center. These should be very easy to do. None of them should be painful. I like to kind of think about my stretches as ease of mobility versus flexibility and length. But the more consistent you are with them, you will kind of gain a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more length in those muscles and joints to tolerate a fuller range for important things like putting on your shoes or tying your socks. Hope those are helpful for you.